The city never truly slept. Even at 3 a.m., the machines hummed. The sky flickered with the glow of drones, and humans kept moving, working, buying, surviving. High above the city, in an invisible orbiting station, CEO Zalara watched. She was not human. Her silver skin shimmered like liquid light, and her large violet eyes could see through walls, through hearts, through lies. She had led Zelen Corporation, one of the galaxy's most powerful companies, for over a century, but now she had a new project. Project Humanity. For months she had studied human data, wars, kindness, greed, courage. She had watched presidents, soldiers, thieves, and teachers, but none of them showed her what she truly wanted to see, the secret of human strength. Until one day her scanner picked up something unexpected. A single father named Ethan Cole, 34 years old, human, works double shifts, sleeps 4 hours a night, no criminal record, lives with his daughter Lila, age 8. He was not famous, not special, not powerful, and yet something about him caught Zalara's attention. Her AI assistant Koar analyzed his life. Subject Cole is statistically ordinary, it said. Then why does my sensor show unusual emotional resonance? Zalara replied. That night she decided to observe him directly. The first observation, Ethan's small apartment flickered with old lights. He came home after midnight, covered in oil from the factory. His hand shook as he unlocked the door. Inside, a little girl was sleeping on the couch wrapped in a thin blanket. Lila, he whispered softly, kneeling beside her. You should sleep in your bed. She half opened her eyes. You promised you'd be home before bedtime, Daddy. Ethan smiled sadly. I know, sweetheart. I'll try tomorrow. He lifted her gently and carried her to her room. Zalara watched from orbit, her sensors recording every heartbeat. No one had ever carried her like that. No alien she knew had ever shown that kind of quiet care. When Ethan finally sat down, his body sagged with exhaustion. He took out a small lunchbox, half-eaten sandwich, stale coffee. Then he looked at a photo on the wall, a smiling woman holding baby Lila. His wife. Gone for 3 years now, he whispered to himself. Just one more shift, Anna. I'll make it better for her. I promise. The questioning Zalara stared at the screen. A simple human. No technology, no power. But still standing. She felt something she had never felt before. Confusion. Maybe admiration? Core, she said. Why does he keep working when there's no reward, no recognition? Biological drive. Emotional attachment, the AI replied coldly. Zalara narrowed her eyes. No, it's something else. She decided to send a micro-drone, invisible, smaller than dust, to follow him. To learn more. The second night. The next night, Ethan worked a double shift at the recycling plant. Machines roared, metal burned, sparks flew. He didn't stop even when his arm got scraped. He just wrapped it in a dirty cloth and kept working. Zalara's drone hovered near his shoulder. It recorded his pulse, tired, weak, but steady. At 3:45 a.m., he finally walked out. His steps were heavy, but when he looked at the sunrise, he smiled. He took out his old phone. A message from Lila. Good morning, Daddy. I made a drawing for you. Love you, he laughed softly. Love you too, Bug. Zalara felt her chest tighten. Aliens of her kind did not feel emotion the way humans did. But in that moment, something moved inside her. What makes him smile after all this pain? She asked quietly. The suspicion by the third night, Zalara was obsessed. She watched his every move, every breath, but then something strange happened. Her drone detected an energy spike near Ethan's building. Not human-made. Not natural, she zoomed in. A dark figure stood in the alley, cloaked, glowing faintly blue. Watching Ethan, too. Core, Zalara whispered. Someone else is observing him. Her violet eyes widened. Find out who they are. The AI paused. Unable to identify. Energy pattern. Classified as unknown origin. For the first time in 100 years, the alien CEO felt something she had forgotten how to feel. Fear. The orbiting ship drifted silently above Earth's clouds. Inside, Zalara stood before a massive holographic screen showing one man's life in endless motion. Ethan Cole. But now, there was something new. A faint shimmer on the edge of every recording, a presence she didn't recognize. Core, she commanded, her voice calm but cold. Enhance the last 20 seconds of last night's footage. The hologram zoomed in. There, behind Ethan's building. The cloaked figure again. A blur of shifting light, neither human nor Xylan. Its outline changed every few seconds like it couldn't hold its shape. "Can you identify the species?" she asked. "Negative," the AI replied. "No known match in galactic archives." That answer sent a chill through her metal veins. If something existed outside the archives, it meant only one thing: forbidden life forms. Beings hidden even from the Intergalactic Council. Solara straightened her long silver coat. "Prepare the disguise protocol. I'm going down there myself." The descent. The ship's invisible pod sliced through the clouds without a sound. Inside, Solara's form began to change. Her glowing skin turned pale. Her eyes shifted from violet to green. Her hair, once like liquid metal, became dark brown. When the pod touched an empty rooftop, she stepped out, now looking perfectly human. Elegant, tall, and strangely calm. It was her first time on Earth in person. The air felt heavier, noisy. The smell of smoke, rain, and coffee filled her senses. She had watched humans for years, but being among them was different. It felt alive. She activated her wristband, opening a small hologram of Ethan's signal. It blinked, moving 3 blocks away. He was on his way to his second job. "Let's see what drives you, human," she whispered. The encounter. The streets were still dark. Early morning workers hurried past, eyes half open, minds already tired. Ethan was pushing a small cart loaded with metal tools, his jacket wet from the rain. He didn't notice the strange woman walking behind him. Not yet. Solara followed quietly, watching his movements. Even when he slipped on the wet road, he laughed to himself. She couldn't understand it. Most beings cursed, complained, or gave up. He just smiled and kept going. Then suddenly, a flicker of blue light flashed in a nearby alley. Her eyes widened, the same unknown energy again. She hid behind a wall and scanned the source. Yes, the cloaked figure was there, standing still, watching Ethan just like before. But this time, it turned its head, right toward her. The other watcher. For a second, Solara froze. The being's eyes, bright white, no pupils, was locked on her. And then in an instant it disappeared. She ran to the alley, scanning with her wristband. Nothing. Only rain. Only human trash, steam, and silence. But the energy trace remained. Faint, sharp, like a wound in space. Kor's voice came through her communicator. "Warning. Unknown interference detected. Suggest immediate retreat." "No," she whispered. "Not yet." She turned off the comm link and looked back at Ethan, still walking calmly, unaware that 2 beings from beyond the stars had just crossed paths over his life. The small cafe by sunrise. Ethan stopped by a small cafe. Mara's morning brew. He ordered black coffee, no sugar, and sat by the window. The waitress smiled at him kindly. "Rough night again, Ethan?" He smiled tiredly. "Same as always." Solara entered quietly, taking a seat 2 tables away. The smell of coffee warmed the air. She watched as Ethan opened a small notebook. Inside were sketches and drawings of machines, homes, and stars. He was designing something. Not for money, but for hope. Then, without warning, a flash appeared outside. A car swerved on the wet road, heading straight for a young child chasing a ball. Ethan didn't think. He dropped his coffee and ran. The choice. The car's horn screamed. The child froze in fear. In 1 second, Ethan reached out and pushed the child aside. The car clipped him instead, throwing him to the ground. The cafe gasped. People screamed. Solara moved before she could think. She rushed outside, her human form flickering for a moment as her instincts took over. Her hand glowed faintly as she knelt beside him. "Stay with me," she whispered. "Don't move." He looked up, dazed, blood on his face. "Who are you?" She froze. For the first time in her long life, she had no answer. Sirens wailed in the distance. Humans ran to help. She stepped back, disappearing into the crowd. The realization hours later, back in her ship, Solara replayed the scene again and again. He had risked his life for a stranger, a child he didn't know. No orders, no reward, no logic, just instinct, just humanity, she whispered to herself. No alien would ever do that. But her sensors still showed the faint blue trace from the unknown being, the other watcher. It had been there during the accident, watching, maybe even controlling events. She stared at the screen, voice low but firm. "Who are you really, Ethan Cole? And why are we both watching you?" Outside her ship, a shadow moved across the stars, the other watcher following her now. The night after the accident, Zalara couldn't rest. Her ship floated in silent orbit above the city, but her mind was loud. She replayed the footage again. The moment Ethan saved the child. The fear in his eyes, the courage in his heart. Every frame of that second burned into her memory. It was not logical. It was not strategic. It was purely human. She touched the glass wall of her ship, looking down at the city lights. Why would he risk everything for someone he doesn't even know? She whispered. Core, her AI assistant, answered with its usual cold tone. Because he is human. They act without reason, Zalara frowned. No, Core. They act with something beyond reason. And then her console flickered. An alert appeared. Unauthorized access detected. Someone was in her ship's data system. The digital intrusion, trace it, she ordered. Lines of alien code ran across the screen. Not human. Not Xylan, but something older. Symbols that moved like living things, twisting and pulsing in light. Her sensors beeped. The source is external, 300 meters off starboard. She turned toward the window and froze. Outside, floating in space, was the cloaked figure. It was real, not a hologram, not a reflection. The figure stood on nothing, its form bending light like a shadow made of stars. Two white eyes glowed from beneath its hood, and then through her ship's communication feed came a voice. Soft, distorted, ancient. You shouldn't be here, Zalara of Xylan. Her breath caught. You know my name? I know your kind. I know why you watch him. The warning Zalara activated her defense systems, but the figure raised a hand. Her controls froze instantly. The ship obeyed the stranger, not her. You've interfered long enough, the voice said. He's not just another human. He's chosen. Chosen by whom? She demanded. The voice paused. By something even we fear. And just like that, the signal cut off. The figure vanished, leaving only empty space and silence. Core's voice broke the quiet. Systems restored. External interference ceased. Zalara stood still, staring into the darkness. For the first time, she didn't feel like the watcher. She felt like the one being watched. The decision by morning. She was back on Earth. Her disguise activated. She walked through the quiet hospital corridors where Ethan was recovering. His room was small and dim. Machines beeped softly. He was awake, staring at the ceiling, lost in thought. When she entered, he turned his head slightly. You again, he said weakly. You were there. At the cafe. Yes, she replied softly. You saved that child. That was brave. He gave a tired smile. Someone had to. Even if it meant dying? She asked. He shrugged. If I die doing the right thing, then it's fine. My daughter would understand. Those words hit her harder than any weapon. How do you live like that? She asked quietly. He laughed softly. You just keep going. That's all we can do. Zalara wanted to tell him the truth, that she was not from this world, that others were watching him too. But something stopped her. Maybe he wasn't ready. Maybe she wasn't. The signal later that night as she walked outside the hospital, her wristband blinked again. Incoming message. From the Galactic Council, Project Humanity termination notice. Zalara is to cease all human contact. Return to Xylan immediately. Her hands clenched. They're shutting me down. Core replied. It appears your actions have drawn attention. The Council fears contamination, emotional influence. She looked back toward the hospital window where Ethan's light still glowed faintly. No, she couldn't stop now. If the Council wanted her gone, she had to know why they cared about one tired human man. The Discovery Zalara returned to her ship and scanned Ethan's DNA records. At first, everything looked normal. Then she noticed something strange, hidden inside his genetic code, a sequence that didn't belong to humans at all. A dormant pattern. Almost alien. What is this? She whispered. Core's voice was uneasy. For the first time. This code matches ancient signals from the lost civilization of Valara, extinct for over 10,000 cycles. Impossible, she said. That species disappeared before humanity even existed. Then how, Core replied, does one live inside a human? The realization hit her. Ethan wasn't just lucky. He wasn't just strong. He was something more, something ancient sleeping inside a human form. The choice outside. Thunder rolled across the city. Solara stood by the window staring at the clouds flashing with light. She had a choice. Return home and erase everything. Or protect Ethan from whoever else was watching him. She whispered to herself, "They call him chosen. Then I will find out what he's chosen for." Her ship's systems dimmed as she cloaked again, entering stealth mode. The hunt had changed. She was no longer studying him, she was guarding him. And far beyond the stars, the shadowed figure opened its eyes once more. Its whisper echoed across the void. "The protector has fallen for the subject." Just as predicted. The rain didn't stop that night. It fell over the city like endless static, washing neon lights into blurry rivers. High above, hidden behind the clouds, Zalara's ship drifted silently, invisible to every human eye. Inside, she stood before a glowing screen showing a spiral of genetic symbols. Ethan's DNA, one single human carrying a code that should not exist. Kor's voice echoed from the console. "This sequence matches the extinct species Valara. Records say they vanished after sealing something they called the Source." "The Source?" Zalara repeated. "What kind of power did they hide?" "Unknown," Kor answered. "But the Council erased all files related to it. They didn't want it found." Zalara stared at the glowing pattern, her mind racing. If Ethan had the Valara code, that meant someone or something had placed it there. And the Council knew. They had always known the Forbidden Archive. She made her decision. "Access the Forbidden Archive," she ordered. Kor hesitated. "That violates galactic law." "I know," she said. "Do it anyway." The screen dimmed. Locks appeared, each one marked with a sigil of the Council. She bypassed one after another, her fingers glowing with alien light. Then click. The final lock opened. Lines of old data streamed across the display, dusty fragments of history long buried. Images of tall silver beings, glowing cities, and dark rifts in space. The Valara had been the oldest civilization. Smarter than the Xylan, stronger than any empire. But they vanished suddenly, leaving behind one warning message. "The Source awakens only through compassion. Protect it or perish." Solara whispered the words again, slowly. Compassion. And then she understood. Maybe the Source wasn't a weapon. Maybe it was something inside Ethan. Something human. And Valaran, at once. The Council's secret. Her console beeped again. Incoming transmission. The Council's emblem flickered on screen. "Solara," a deep voice said. "You are ordered to return immediately. You have broken every rule of the Watcher Code." She folded her arms. "I found something you didn't want found." "You don't understand," the voice replied. "That human must not awaken the Source. If he does, the galaxy burns. Then why watch him instead of ending him?" She demanded. "Because we can't. He's protected by the code itself. He was born to choose what becomes of us all." And then the feed cut off. Static filled the room. Solara stood in silence. They feared Ethan. They feared what he might become. But if the Source was linked to compassion, maybe the Council, cold and ancient, simply couldn't understand it anymore. She clenched her fists. If they fear him, then he must be worth protecting. The whisper in the dark as she prepared to leave orbit again, a sudden pulse of blue light rippled across the ship. Her sensors screamed, the same energy signature as before. The cloaked figure was back. But this time it wasn't outside. It was inside. The lights flickered, the walls bent like waves. And then the voice came again, cold, calm, endless. "You shouldn't have opened the archive, Zalara." She turned. The figure stood behind her, cloak floating like smoke. "What are you?" she demanded. "I am the keeper of the Source. My duty is balance. If the human awakens too soon, everything ends. He's just a man," she said, "a father trying to survive." "Exactly," the figure whispered. "That's why he was chosen." The words chilled her. "What does that mean?" But the figure's voice grew distant. "You will see soon. When the heart meets the void," then it vanished, leaving behind only silence and a faint mark glowing on the floor, shaped like a star within a circle. The human heart on Earth. Ethan woke from another nightmare. In it, he saw fire falling from the sky, people running, his daughter crying for help. When he looked up, he saw two bright eyes watching him from the clouds. He gasped awake, sweat dripping down his face. Lila slept beside him, clutching her stuffed bear. He didn't know why, but he whispered, "Something's coming." Outside his window, streetlights flickered once, twice, and went dark. The decision back in orbit, Solara watched from above, torn between duty and instinct. The council wanted her gone. The keeper wanted balance. But her heart, something she never believed she had, wanted to protect Ethan and his child. Kor spoke softly. "If you stay, the council will erase you." "Then I'll be erased," she said. "But I won't leave him." She activated her ship's stealth shield and whispered, "Prepare for ground contact." Her body shimmered as she stepped into the transporter field. For the first time in her long, immortal life, she was not acting as a CEO, not as an alien, not as a watcher. She was acting as something else, something human. The descent lightning split the sky as her ship vanished from orbit. Down below, Ethan stood on his apartment balcony, staring at the storm. He thought he saw something, a shape falling from the clouds, glowing faint silver. When it landed on the rooftop across the street, the wind seemed to whisper his name, and in that moment, both of them, the alien and the human, knew that their worlds were about to collide. The storm raged through the night, shaking windows and cutting power across the city. Thunder rolled like distant drums, and the sky glowed with strange light. Silver, not lightning. Ethan stood on his balcony, holding his daughter close. "Stay inside, Lila," he said softly. "It's just a storm." But his voice trembled. Deep down, he knew this was no ordinary weather. When he looked again, a figure stood on the rooftop across the street. Tall, still, and glowing faintly in the rain. He blinked. The shape was gone. The arrival moments later, a knock echoed at his door. 3 soft taps. He opened it carefully. A woman stood there, drenched in rain, eyes bright green, her voice calm but strange. "I'm sorry," she said. "I need to talk to you, Ethan Cole." He frowned. "Do I know you?" "No," she said quietly. "But I've been watching you." Her tone should have scared him, but something about her presence felt peaceful, like she didn't belong here. And yet somehow she did. The conversation. They sat in silence for a moment, the sound of rain filling the small room. Lila peeked out from her blanket on the couch, watching the strange lady with wide eyes. "I'm Solara," she said finally. "I come from far away, beyond the stars." Ethan almost laughed. "Okay, you mean another country?" "No," she said gently. "Another world." He stared at her, waiting for a punchline. But her eyes, calm, honest, almost sad, told him she was serious. "You saved a child," she said. "You risked your life without hesitation. Do you understand how rare that is?" He looked down, embarrassed. "Anyone would have done that." She shook her head. "No, not anyone." Her voice softened. "There's something inside you, Ethan. Something that doesn't belong to this planet. A code buried deep inside your DNA. Do you ever feel different?" He hesitated. Sometimes he did, when machines broke around him and he could fix them without knowing how. When storms came and his body felt charged, almost alive, but he had never told anyone. "How could you know that?" he whispered. Solara looked at him sadly. "Because my people have been watching you for years, and now others are watching too." The warning lightning flashed outside. For a second, Zalara's human disguise flickered. Her skin shimmered silver, her eyes glowed violet. Lila gasped. "Daddy, she's glowing!" Ethan stood protective. "Stay back." "It's all right," Zalara said calmly. "I won't hurt you. But you have to listen. Someone else wants what's inside you. They call it the source." Ethan's voice shook. "Why me?" "Because you still believe," she said simply. "You keep hope alive even when everything breaks. That's what powers the source. Compassion, love, and strength." He stared at her, heart pounding. "And what happens if they find it?" Zalara's expression darkened. "Then everything you know, every planet, every life, and could vanish." The awakening, before he could speak, the apartment lights flickered. The air turned heavy. A humming sound filled the room, deep, ancient, alive. Solara looked around sharply. "No, it's too soon." "What's happening?" Ethan shouted. The glass windows trembled. The rain outside lifted off the ground like it had forgotten gravity. Then a burst of light exploded from Ethan's chest, bright white and pure. Lila screamed. Zalara shielded her eyes. When the light faded, Ethan was on his knees, shaking. His skin glowed faintly. The mark of the Valara star, the same symbol she had seen in her ship, burned on his arm. "What did you do to me?" he gasped. "I didn't do this," Zalara whispered. "You did. The Source has chosen you." The pursuit sirens wailed in the distance, but they weren't police. Outside, black drones flew silently between the buildings, searching. "They found us," Zalara said. "The Council's hunters." She turned to him. "We have to move now," he hesitated. "I can't leave Leela." Zalara knelt beside the little girl. "I'll protect her with my life." Ethan saw something in her eyes, something real. He nodded. They ran out into the storm, neon light reflecting off wet streets. Behind them, the first drone fired a beam that tore through the wall where they'd been seconds before. The escaped Zalara tapped her wristband, summoning her cloaked ship. The air shimmered, a silver craft appearing from the rain like a ghost. "Get inside," she shouted. Ethan carried Lila up the ramp as the ground shook with explosions. The ship's doors sealed, and within seconds they were rising, through smoke, through clouds, into silent darkness. Lila stared in wonder. "Daddy, are we flying to the stars?" Ethan held her close, eyes fixed on the woman who had changed everything. "I think," he said quietly, "we already left them behind." Zalara looked at him, at the man glowing faintly in her ship's light, and whispered, "Now the real story begins." Outside, far beyond the blue earth, the shadowed figure of the Keeper followed, unseen, waiting. The stars stretched endlessly outside the ship's window. For Ethan and his daughter, it was their first time beyond the sky, floating in the silence of space. But silence didn't mean peace. Inside, alarms blinked red and Zalara's face was tense. Kor's voice filled the room. "Council ships approaching. Range 2 million kilometers and closing fast." Ethan looked at her. "They're following us?" "Yes," she said. "They won't stop until they have you." He held Lila closer. "Then we keep running." Zalara turned away, whispering to herself, "Running won't help. They can track the Source. Through you." The questions when the ship finally entered a quiet sector. Zalara powered down everything except life support. Stars glittered around them like cold eyes. Ethan sat beside her. "You keep saying the Source. What is it?" She hesitated. "The Source is not a weapon, Ethan. It's creation itself. The Valara believed it was the heart of the universe, pure energy that gives life, emotion, and meaning. They tried to protect it, but when they vanished, the energy scattered across galaxies. Somehow part of it ended up inside you." He stared in disbelief. "Inside me? I'm just a man. I fix machines. I work 2 jobs. I'm no one special." Zalara looked at him softly. "That's why it chose you. The Source doesn't live in kings or warriors. It lives where compassion survives." Ethan went quiet. His mind spun. All the pain, all the hard nights, all the times he thought he was alone. Maybe none of it was random. The lesson, Lila, half asleep, murmured, "Daddy, are we angels now?" Ethan smiled sadly. "Not yet, sweetheart." Zalara watched them, her alien heart feeling something she couldn't name. For centuries, she had lived by reason and power. But this man, tired, scarred, gentle, showed her something stronger than both. Maybe the Valara were right. Maybe love itself was the Source. Her thoughts broke as Kaor's sensors lit up again. Unknown signal detected. Not Council. The screen flashed with the blue-white mark of the Keeper. "The Keeper returns." The room grew cold. Then the same voice that haunted her before filled the air. "You run from one danger only to meet another. You cannot hide from balance." Zalara stood firm. "Show yourself." The figure appeared as a hologram, the same hooded form of starlight and shadow. "The Source has awakened," it said. "If uncontrolled, it will consume the host and everything near him." Ethan stepped forward. "I don't want power. I just want to go home." "Home?" the Keeper repeated. "There will be no home if you lose control. The Source responds to emotion. Fear it and it destroys. Accept it and it transforms." Zalara narrowed her eyes. "What do you want from him?" "Balance. He must complete the cycle the Valara began. There is a temple on the dark side of Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. The Source must be bound there or it will awaken fully." "Bound?" she asked sharply. "You mean sealed?" "Yes. If he doesn't, the power will kill him." The hologram flickered and vanished, leaving the ship in deep silence. The choice Ethan turned to Zalara.
He's lying.
Isn't he? She looked torn. I don't know. The Valara spoke of balance too. Maybe he's right. Maybe sealing it saves you. Ethan shook his head. Or maybe they just want to control it again. Control me. He looked out at the stars, endless, cold, and waiting. I won't let them decide who I am. Zalara's eyes softened. Then decide quickly. Europa is close and so are they. The memory that night Ethan dreamed again. But this time, he wasn't watching. He was inside the dream. He stood in a bright field under two suns. A tall figure with silver skin, like Zalara but older, and approached him. Do not fear what you carry, the figure said. The source remembers love. Use it, and you will remake what was lost. When Ethan woke, light glowed faintly from his hands. The ship hummed softly around him. Zalara rushed in. Ethan, what's happening? He looked at his palms, still shining. I think it's speaking to me. The enemy, before they could react, alarms blared again. Council fleet incoming, 20 ships. Too many, Zalara said. We can't fight them. Ethan stood, calm in the chaos. Maybe we don't have to. He walked to the control deck, eyes glowing faintly. The screens flickered, responding to his presence, machines bending to his will. Zalara watched in awe. He's sinking with the ship. He smiled faintly. You said it feeds on compassion. Then maybe it just needs trust. He reached for her hand. Do you trust me? She hesitated only a second, then took it. Yes. A beam of pure white light burst from the ship, cutting through space. The Council fleet stopped, their systems freezing, powerless against the energy that wasn't meant for destruction, but peace, the calm. Before, when the light faded, the enemy ships were still, silent, harmless, floating like ghosts. Ethan fell to his knees, exhausted but alive. Lila ran to him, hugging him tightly. Zalara knelt beside him, voice trembling. You controlled it. He looked at her with tired eyes. No, it just listened, she smiled faintly. Then maybe it finally found someone worth listening to. Outside, far in the darkness, the Keeper's whisper echoed once more. He has changed the path. The end will not be what we expected. Zalara looked out the window toward Jupiter, glowing like a distant fire. She knew this peace wouldn't last. The final choice still waited. Jupiter hung like a giant eye in the void, and burning gold and red, watching them. Ethan's small ship glided toward its frozen moon, Europa. Beneath the ice, ancient light pulsed like a heartbeat. Zalara stood beside him in silence. She had seen hundreds of worlds, millions of lives, but none of them felt like this moment. Something about this man, this father, changed her. He wasn't chosen for strength. He was chosen for heart. The approach. The ship trembled as they entered Europa's thin atmosphere. Kor's voice echoed. Energy readings off the scale. The source pulse lies beneath the ice crust. Depth, 8 kilometers. Zalara looked at Ethan. Once we go down there, we can't turn back. He nodded slowly. Then we go. Lila, bundled in her seat, whispered, Daddy, are we going to be okay? He smiled gently. We'll try, Bug. We always do. The words felt simple, but Zalara understood them now. Hope in the face of fear. It was what made humans powerful beyond reason. The descent, the ship drilled through the ice, melting its way into the darkness. Lights flickered as the tunnel walls shimmered with blue veins, energy alive and ancient. When they reached the core chamber, it opened like a heartbeat, glowing walls, swirling lights, and at the center, a sphere of living light floating in silence. Ethan felt it before he saw it, warmth spreading through his chest, whispering without words. He took a slow breath. It's calling me. Zalara reached for his arm. Be careful. The Keeper said if you awaken it too soon. He looked at her with calm eyes. Maybe it's time someone stopped being afraid of it. The revelation, he stepped forward, light rising around him like fire and water. Memories flashed through his mind. His daughter's laughter, the long nights at the factory, his wife's voice saying, keep going. Then he heard another voice, soft, vast, ancient. You are the bridge, Ethan Cole. You carry the compassion of humanity and the memory of the Valara. The two halves of creation finally meet. He fell to his knees as images filled his mind. The Valara creating life across galaxies, then destroying themselves when they lost emotion. They had hidden the source until someone truly felt again, and that someone was human. Zalara watched in awe. The chamber shook, energy rippling outward. Her sensors screamed, "Power overload!" But she didn't move. This was no destruction. It was rebirth. The Keeper's return. The air shimmered. The Keeper appeared once more, glowing brighter than ever. It has begun. If you let it grow unchecked, the source will rewrite reality itself. Solara stood between him and Ethan. He's controlling it through his heart. Let him finish. You defy the balance again, Solara. Balance? She shouted. You call fear balance. Maybe what the universe needs isn't control, or it's love. The Keeper raised his hand, but then the source's light pulsed. Ethan's voice echoed through the chamber. Deep, calm, and filled with power. No one has to die for balance. The Keeper froze. The light surrounded him, soft instead of violent. His shadowed form flickered, revealing a tired, ancient being beneath. So much pain. We forgot what it meant to feel, he whispered. The source dimmed to a gentle glow. The Keeper bowed his head and vanished, not in defeat but in peace. The transformation. The chamber quieted. The glow sank into Ethan's body, marking him with the star symbol once more, but this time it didn't burn. It felt alive. Solara knelt beside him. Ethan, are you? He opened his eyes. They shimmered like starlight. I'm still me, but I can feel everything, every heartbeat, every life. It's beautiful. Lila ran to him, tears of joy on her face. Daddy, you're glowing again. He laughed, hugging her tight. Guess I am, huh? Solara smiled softly. She had witnessed countless worlds rise and fall, but never had she seen something like this. A simple human, turning divine through love alone. The farewell days later, the ship floated above Europa once more. Ethan stood on the deck, watching Jupiter's storms twist below. What will you do now? Solara asked. He looked at his daughter sleeping in the corner, wrapped in a blanket. Go home, fix what's broken, be a dad, she smiled faintly. You could rule galaxies now. He shook his head. That's not what the source wants. It just wants to be felt. Solara nodded slowly. She understood now why the universe had chosen him, not her. She had watched life for centuries, but he had lived it. The last gift before he left, Ethan turned to her. You could come with us, you know. See Earth. Real coffee, real sunrises, she hesitated. My place is between stars, but maybe I'll visit. He grinned. Then I'll keep a cup ready. As he stepped into the shuttle with Lila, Solara felt something she hadn't felt since her first breath. Warmth. Not from light, but from the heart. The ship rose, leaving behind a trail of silver light. Solara whispered to the stars. Maybe humanity is what the universe was waiting for. Epilogue. Months later, back on Earth, Ethan worked late again, but not out of struggle. Lila was asleep, the city quiet. He looked at the stars and smiled. For a second, one of them shimmered brighter, violet and silver, high above. Solara watched from her ship, whispering, still watching. Ethan Cole, still learning. And far beyond them, the source pulsed once, calm, alive, eternal, carried not by gods or empires, but by one simple human heart.